Welcome back, and remember to keep conversing with us on social media. The hashtag is the Modise Network. The Agritsi testimony at the State Capture Commission, chaired by the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, has disclosed more details about the extent to which the criminal justice system, especially the National Prosecuting Authority, has been compromised. Angelo Agritsi spoke about payments made to officials Nomgcobo Jiba, Lawrence Mrwebi and Jacqueline Lapinka. There are several inquiries underway, but Jiba and Mrwebi are facing their own, chaired by Justice Yvonne Mokoro. The Special Investigating Unit has also complained about the tardiness of the NPA in prosecuting high-profile cases. There are many other cases that it appears the Hawks or the NPA have simply ignored or refused to prosecute, and the most recent being the Duduzane Zuma case. But how compromised is the NPA, and what will the new head, Shamila Batohi, find when she takes over on the 1st of February? Independent constitutional law expert Phephelaphi Dube joins us to discuss. Phephelaphi, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what is your reaction to all these allegations that are coming out of the state capture inquiry, particularly with regards to the NPA?
I think the allegations that have come out of the commission are not surprising, given the fact that quite a few media houses have been running with these stories for quite a few years. But I think perhaps a lot of people don't quite realize the extent to which there was this symbiotic relationship between certain highly politicized, highly connected individuals, as well as the National Prosecuting Authority. And I think what we're seeing is really just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. It would appear as if, the problems associated with corruption and the politicization of the National Prosecuting Authority, I think the depths of this are not yet quite known, and the Commission at the moment is only just fully coming to grips with some of these allegations.
Now, you're saying that this is the tip of the iceberg. What do you think the extent is? Are there any particular instances or cases that you can cite that confirm that we have a compromised NPA?
Well, I think on its own, if you consider the history of the National Prosecuting Authority, at least the post-94 Prosecuting Authority, the fact that we haven't had a single head of the National Prosecuting Authority serving a complete term, and the fact that invariably every single head of the National Prosecuting Authority who has stepped down has had to step down due to allegations of political interference. And I think if we also consider, for example, Sean Abrams, the decision on whether or not to prosecute the former president seemed to be a decision that was taken with regard to other matters, with regard to other factors beyond the law. So it would appear as if there has always been a hint of politicization within the National Prosecuting Authority. And I think what is coming out of the commission so far is really a hint of what is probably a much larger problem which exists within the National Prosecuting Authority. But arguably, it's not just the National Prosecuting Authority, it's other vital institutions of state which have also been politicized. And I think this is all too apparent in the last few years, especially if you consider the ongoings at SARS, if you consider the South African Police Service, the fact that they have also had problems related to senior leaders, for example, the matter regarding Richard Mdluli and his role in crime intelligence, etc. So arguably, it's not just the National Prosecuting Authority, but it's a whole host of institutions which should have been holding individuals accountable, but due to political interference have not been functioning in the way that the Constitution envisages they discharge their mandate.
But how critical are these agencies, particularly those within the criminal justice system, to the upholding of the rule of law in South Africa? And what does this mean then to the rights of the ordinary citizen in relation to the politically connected, and of course what is being disclosed now? I mean, these institutions or agencies are supposed to be independent and to be seen to be partial, and then to be applying the law fairly, as I said, particularly those in the criminal justice system.
Well, absolutely. I think that's a vital question, which suggests that the health of South Africa's constitutional democracy is really not in a good state. If you consider the fact that the foundational values of the country in terms of the constitution includes the rule of law, it includes equality, and equality means that South Africans should enjoy the full benefit or the full protection before the law. So if we're seeing some of these prosecutions, the fact that some prosecutions appear to have been taken for political reasons, and that some reasons not to prosecute were also taken on the basis of political considerations. So it would appear as if certain politically connected individuals have more rights than other individuals. But on the other hand, I think it's important for us not to lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think it's important to also bring in the role of the media in terms of the eventual setup of these, commissions of inquiry, especially if you consider the fact that these were allegations which were first investigated by very brave journalists who brought these allegations into the public forum. And thereafter, we need to consider institutions such as the public protector. But I think in this instance, obviously looking at individuals within the public protector, for example, the former public protector, Thuli Madonsela, and the role that she played in terms of ensuring that these issues are undercovered. So I think on the one hand, it is concerning, the extent to which the rule of law appears to be flouted. But on the other hand, I think we need to look at the bigger picture, which is the fact that these issues are being aired out in the public, and they're being aired out because of the role of other institutions and other role players. And these role players would include the media, the courts, for example, as well as institutions, including the public protector.
But now, what we know now is as a result of the various commissions of inquiry, right? There's an instance of a case that was with the NPA almost 10 years that was mentioned, which involves two Department of Correctional Services officials, Mti and Gillingham. Were it not for the commission, for instance, the fact that the SIU had a special investigating unit had already investigated this case and made recommendations that there should be prosecutions, we would not know about it. So this in itself, I think, shows the extent to which the agencies have been compromised.
Yes, absolutely. It does suggest, the absolutely dire state of affairs within a lot of South Africa's very important public bodies. And I think at the same time, it does speak to the need for commissions of inquiry to perhaps be given a more meaningful say, in the sense that at the moment, although the commissions enjoy tremendous powers, their ability to summon witnesses, their ability to subpoena witnesses, etc., and the ability to ask questions which go beyond the scope of the terms of reference. So even though they do enjoy a lot of leeway, but the bottom line remains in the sense that at the end of it all, they issue recommendations and they issue a report. But these recommendations are not binding, and the president is not obliged to abide by those recommendations. So perhaps going forward, we should be having a conversation about the fact that we perhaps need to give these commissions of inquiry a greater say in terms of how exactly they hold individuals accountable.
What about the role of Parliament then? Because Parliament was supposed to play an oversight role over some of these institutions. What happened there? That's one part of the question. The second part is that the institutions that you refer to employ people who draw salaries, and salaries that are paid by the taxpayers only to work against the interests of the same taxpayers. How are citizens supposed to feel? I mean, how do you fix this situation?
Well, I think that really is the bigger question at the end of the day. And I think it is true, it is correct to perhaps lay some of the blame within Parliament, because in terms of the Constitution, Parliament has an oversight function over members of the executive. But at the same time, in terms of the same Constitution, members of Parliament can only remain as a member of Parliament if they are members of a particular political party. Now, we know that a lot of members of the executive are drawn from the ranks of the government governing party. So in that sense, it becomes very difficult for those same members of parliament to then hold the members of the executive accountable without fear of losing their positions. I think we all saw what happened to Makosi Koza when she started being very vocal about former President Jacob Zuma, in the sense that the party took moves to discipline her before she ultimately took the decision to resign from the governing party. And I think perhaps the Nkandla matter is the biggest example of, just the failure of Parliament to exercise its oversight function over the executive, just based on the fact that it's very difficult for them to effectively hold members of the governing party accountable. So in a sense, Parliament has been largely failing to exercise its oversight function when it comes to holding members of the executive accountable. And then on the question of what the public itself is supposed to do, I think we need to bear in mind the fact that, South Africa is, at the end of the day, a constitutional democracy. And in line with that constitutional democracy, we have regular free and fair elections. And 2019 is an election year. And of course, one of the ways in which the members of the public are able to exercise their political choices is to consider not just the political manifestos of those relevant political parties, but to also consider how exactly those members of political parties are conducting themselves. So in a sense, that should be a mechanism in terms of how the public itself can hold these members of political parties accountable, in that going forward, individuals should be able to ask themselves, how exactly is my political party, which is in a position to wield executive power, how exactly is it abiding by the Constitution? And if it's not abiding by the Constitution, do I have any other choices in the ballot box? So going forward, it is important for not just Parliament to have to exercise its oversight function in terms of the Constitution, but it's also important as well for the electorate, for the South African public, to also exercise their political choices in line with the information which they glean from the media.
Now, let's talk about Advocate Shamila Batohi. She'll be taking over as the head of the NPA in about a week's time, and a lot is expected from her. But you say that what we've seen recently is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the rot that is within some of these agencies. How much influence do you think she will have? What difference is she going to make? I mean, an example is that there's a lot of detail coming out of the Zondo Commission, for instance, and we haven't heard of any investigations or prosecutions taking place as a result thereof. So what is the public supposed to think then about these agencies, and is there much that Shamila Batohi will be able to do when she comes to office in February?
Well, it's important to recognize that she certainly has a monumental task ahead of her, a monumental task because of the hollowing out of the National Prosecuting Authority. And I think it's been hollowed out to such an extent that the National Prosecuting Authority has, in quite a few high-profile matters, including the Duduzane Zuma matter, including the Estina Dairy case matter, it has failed to secure convictions in instances where the public would have assumed that there was an almost complete docket due to the amount of information that was available. But due to the exodus of highly skilled individuals, they were unable to secure convictions in such matters. And I think not just that, but I think if we also consider at the moment the fact that there seems to be a growing cry for perhaps some kind of accountability for apartheid crimes which took place before 1994, and people are looking to the incoming head of the National Prosecuting Authority to address all of these competing concerns. So in that sense, she certainly has a monumental task ahead of her. But I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there are many hard-working prosecutors who get up every single morning and go and do their job, and they discharge their functions in exactly the same way that the Constitution envisages. So it is important for Shamila Batohi going forward to not only reinstill a newfound sense of morale within the National Prosecuting Authority, but she also needs to secure a conviction of a highly connected, politically connected individual, and also to address, the long-standing issue of how exactly South Africa grapples with its past in terms of bringing to book some of these crimes which took place before 1994.
Ms. Phephelaphi Dube, thank you very much for having been our guest. We appreciate the time and your insights that you've shared with us this morning. Thank you. And well, that's all we had for you this morning. Thank you for joining the Modise Network. Be sure to tune in again next week. And from us, enjoy the rest of your day.